Hey guys, so in this video I'll be showing you guys how I make my full wigs with the lace closure featuring hair from Virgo Hair off of Aliexpress. The first thing you'll need is a spandex dome cap. This is the cap that I use for all of my units. And then of course you would need some hair. As I told you guys before, I received hair from Virgo Hair off of Aliexpress. I was sent over 3 bundles of their Brazilian curly. Each of the bundles were 18 inches long, as well as a full lace closure. And that's what I'm going to show you right here. The next thing you'll need is some T-pins. Now I use T-pins to help secure my wefts onto my styrofoam head, as well as scissors and a needle and thread. So let's get started. So the first thing that I do is I just put my spandex dome cap on my styrofoam head, and the first step is I always put my lace closure on first. So that's what you see me do right now. And what I do is I secure it 2 T-pins on each side of the full lace wig so that I can begin sewing. This just helps keep my lace wig in place so it's not shifting back and forth. And I just make sure that it's nice and taut onto my spandex dome cap. And then when I make my first stitch, I always make sure that it's really secure. So I will go over the stitch multiple times and even loop the thread around the needle just so that I know that I get a nice good knot. And then I will just proceed to sew around the perimeter of this closure. Now the way that I do it is I usually start on one side and I wait till I get all the way to the middle, and then I cut the thread, and then I will sew it on the other side, which you will see in the next clip. When I get to the middle part, what I'll do is I will pin down the middle part so that it lays really flat. So that's what I'm doing right here, is I'm securing some T-pins so that the closure lays flat while I'm sewing. And I make sure that I put my finger down to just help make sure that the closure is also flat on top of adding the T-pins. You can never be too safe when you're sewing your closure on, and I want my closure to fit just perfectly, so I always make sure that it's laying as flat as possible by using a T-pin and my fingers. I then follow the same steps that I did on the other side of my closure by making sure that my first stitch is nicely secured down, and then work my way towards the middle. Now, once I get to the middle, I will remove the T-pins that I added earlier and just make sure that my finger is holding down the closure as I'm sewing. Again, I always want to just make sure that this is laying really flat. So by putting my finger down on the closure, it just helps keep a nice solid base, and then I just sew until my closure is completely sewn on. Now this step is very different from what I've seen on YouTube. I just recently started doing this method, and I actually like the way this method is. And what I do is I make sure that I section my hair off when I am sewing my units on. So now that I have 3 bundles that I'm working with, what I would do is I would take 1/3 of the empty space of my dome cap, and I would use that to sew my first bundle. So from here you see that I'm doing where my ear would be. So from one ear to the other, I would T-pin just the perimeter of my dome cap, and then I will take the remaining weft to make sure that it's even up, and then I will begin to sew. As I'm making my first stitch on my first bundle, what I will do is I will put the needle right through the weft, just at the corner, to secure it down. I don't like doing it under. I just feel like putting the needle through the weft helps keep that part down, and then I wrap the thread around to just make sure that's secure. but my next stitch will be under the weft and not through it. This is the only time I put the needle through the weft, is whenever I'm beginning or ending a bundle. And the next step after that is I will just go under it and loop the needle, the thread around the needle, so that I get a nice good knot. Now, as a pointer for you guys, if you're working with the spandex dome cap and you are using the elastic band that's on the cap, make sure you do not put the needle through the elastic band and you put it through the fabric. If you put it through the elastic band, your band will not be stretchy. So I do advise that you put it through the fabric and not the elastic band, so that you're able to have that nice adjustableness of your dome cap. And all I do is I just sew right around that perimeter that I created until I get to the corner section of the wig. And then what I will do is I will flip over the track and I will sew across. Now, when I flip my tracks over, I make sure I put the thread under the weft, and then I put my thumb down to pin it, and thumb down to hold the fold, and then I would use my T-pins to pin that fold down, and then again use my T-pins to go across so I can make my sections that I need to make for this first 1/3 of my wig. Now, the way that I start my stitch when I'm doing the fold over method is I like to put my thumb down to make sure that the fold is nice and flat, and then I loop my thread around to create that knot and pull really tight while pulling my thumb down, again just pressing that fold down so it lays super flat. And I just go over that section just a couple of times just to make sure that it's flat as possible, and then I just sew right across. What you did not see in this clip is that I did cut the excess weft that was at the end, because I just want this one section all together. So once you see me get to the end of it, you'll see that the weft is not continued. I did cut the weft, and it's rare that I cut my wefts, but this is only one of the circumstances where I will cut the weft. And the same way that I started my bundle, that weft, is the same way I'm going to finish it, by pushing the thread, the needle through the fabric and then through the weft, only in that little corner, and wrapping the thread around to make sure that it's knotted. And I do that a couple of times because you don't want your tracks to loosen over time. You want this wig to last for a very long time, and this is the way I do it for myself, and this is the way I do it for my clients, so that you can get the most out of your units. So the next thing that I do is I lift up that weft and I put it to the side, because I'm going to be working with that empty space right there. This empty space is where I will be filling it in with my first bundle, and I try my best to fit the whole entire bundle in that space. So what I will do is I will go from left to right and just keep doing the fold over method. It's easy for me to use T-pins to know how exactly I want my tracks to lay across, and it just keeps it nice and neat for me. So you'll always see me add T-pins to my wefts whenever I'm starting a new row. And then again, as I always start my my tracks or my line, I will put my needle through the weft and through the fabric and just knot it in place and then sew across. So this is going to be my entire method. Once I get to the end, what I'll do is I'll flip it over, making sure that the needle is underneath the weft, and then using my thumb to hold down the fold, and then taking my T-pins to keep the fold down, and just put the weft right across and T-pin it along, and then just sew right up until I'm completely done with my little 1/3 section. So my 1/3 section is almost complete, and I have just a little bit of this bundle left, and I'm going to use that to sew in and fill in that space right there. So I'm just gonna take that small piece and do what I always do, T-pin it into that section and sew it in just to fill up that gap that's there. And then right here, I'm showing you guys what my first bundle looks like and just the spacing that I have. I don't really have a particular spacing, like 1 inch or 1/2 inch. I just go by eye. But when you are working with your first bundle, I always like to space it out a little bit more on the bottom so it's not so bunched up and you don't have too much hair on the bottom, and then I get a little bit closer on the top. Now this wig was not meant to be put up into a ponytail, so that's why you do see the dome cap on the bottom. I was just sewing it really low to the bottom of the dome cap. My next step is to go with my second bundle, and now I'm going to eye the second bundle and I'm gonna make it the second third part. So 2/3 of the way up on my dome cap, I'm going to just add 1 track there just so I know where I'm working with my second bundle section, and I'm going to cut the end of that weft and sew across, and when I'm done with that, you guys will see what I'm talking about on how I fill in my second bundle. Now the method that I'm using, I'm showing you guys, is when you're working with 3 bundles, but you can do the same method when you're working with 4 bundles. Just eye it, make sure that you have enough space for your 4 bundles to fit by just doing it in 1/4. So you'll make sure that 1/4 of your first bundle is sewn on, and then by the time you're working with your second bundle, you make sure that it's at least halfway up on your dome cap, and then you fill in the other 2 gaps. So now this is the section that I'm going to be working with my second bundle. I'm going to pin it across, and I'm going to do the fold over method again all the way up until I complete this little section that I have here, and therefore I would have used up all of my 2 bundles, and I'm not wasting any here. And I'm making sure that my space is just a little bit smaller this time because now I'm working up, and this is the area where the wind would blow and you can see, you know, spacing or weft. So I try to sew a little bit close by when I'm working with my second bundle, but not too close. I still want to fill in my gaps. So the final step is adding that last bundle that I have here, and if the lighting has changed, it's because I got really tired and I decided to continue working on this unit the next morning. So with this one, I'm just sewing my way up and filling in that last bit of space that I have there, just working my way off to the top. I did not cut any wefts. I definitely did the fold over method all the way to the top, just until I fill out my spacing. And voila, my unit is done. So it's very simple to make your units, and hopefully you guys can understand it from my description. Once you take the unit off, just make sure you cut the fabric underneath the lace, and then it's on to me just washing and conditioning the hair. I am using my Suave clarifying shampoo, and the reason why I'm using the clarifying shampoo is because this hair is from Aliexpress, and sometimes you got to be extra careful with what you put on your head. So I just wanted to just clarify it. The hair did feel a little weird, and it also gets rid of the smell. This one didn't have like a really bad Aliexpress smell to it, but it did get rid of any smell, so my hair did smell like my conditioner. And just lather it up and just make sure I take out any shed hair that may have gotten in there when I was sewing my unit on. And then I add my trusty and my favorite Aussie Moist to the hair, and again just, you know, lather it up and just pull out any shed hair, which I put to the side, just to make sure that all the shed hair is gone, because I did experience shedding one because I cut the wefts. So that's basically it. And then once I'm done with that, I just rinse out the conditioner, and I use a t-shirt to dry my unit. I like to t-shirt dry it because it helps keep the curls nice and fluffy. So I'm just going to use just any t-shirt, cotton t-shirt that I have in the house to dry it. I do apologize that my what I'm showing is not really in frame. I really thought it was in frame when I was recording it. And then last but not least, what I do is I just hang it up to dry in my window. I know it's ghetto, but I really don't care. I actually, when I make my units, let my units dry, air dry in the window, I flip it upside down. I don't know, it just makes my curls nice and thick and fluffy, and I just like it that way. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video and stay tuned for my thoughts on this unit, and I will see you guys next time. Later.